Welcome to Friday, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you, Jason. Good to be
You
here.
too. Looking sharp. Everybody knows maybe today or any given day there might be somebody tuning in who hasn't seen you lately. You've removed the disguise, revealed your identity, and you're not running for president. How did you like dumb Joe Biden's big boy pants news conference or whatever he was doing yesterday?
Yeah. I mean, why would you even call it a big boy conference? I mean, it's just like,
Because Kirby called it that. It was
who
almost like
did?
it's insulting. That guy, who
Indeed.
they bring
Indeed.
in when Karine
Yeah, yeah,
Jean-Pierre
Kirby.
totally
Yeah,
collapses.
yeah. Yeah, he's a disaster. So, yeah, I don't think they did themselves any favors. And um, it's not pretty because, as effective as Trump may have been when he was president, the issue that I take is the cover up stuff. And, beginning with the Las Vegas shooting, but then the fact that he was covering up apparently something that happened during the Obama administration, it just doesn't sit well with me. And
But
then what doesn't sit well,
wouldn't it
let me contrast it, but go ahead. Yeah, what were we going to say?
wouldn't it create panic if they told everybody, "Oh yeah, by the way, Saudi Arabia flew helicopters over a concert and shot people, and we created this horrible biological weapon that's now backfiring." Wouldn't it create chaos and
It
panic,
might.
and they have
It
kind of no
very well
choice?
might. And so that may be a show we need to have, or maybe like we need to get some people here to do a roundtable to join us and have that conversation about what
Chaos
if.
and panic.
Well, hypothetically, what if 90 days after the Vegas shooting, what if Trump did one of those, what's it called when they do the White House thing? It's a fireside chat. What's that called when the
Just a
president
press
does that?
conference.
No, no, no.
The
When they
Rose
address the
Garden.
nation, when they the president's going to do a thing, he's going to be
Oh,
on all
right,
the
where he
prime,
walks out that hallway, and it's just
and he's on all the
an
channels,
address,
right?
a
Like
national
Obama did, yeah,
address.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that thing. So if he did something like that, like we did that when they killed Osama bin Laden, right? So when Osama bin
Exactly.
Laden was killed, they did a whole
Pre-
thing and it was on every
Presidential
channel.
social engineering.
Exactly. No pictures of the body, but we got him. Trust us. All right, we're good.
Right.
So same thing here. If Trump had come out after the night of the long swords and after they resolved all of their differences, let's say, and if 6 months later he came forward and said, "Listen, I need to tell you guys, here's what actually happened," and the people who did it have been caught and they are serving time or they are going to have their heads chopped off or just had their heads chopped off. I believe that the people who did this, I think justice was served. I do.
Right.
I think anybody who was involved in this, they were caught, boy. They were caught and they were they were punished badly. Some of them were chopped up into pieces. So that's what I believe may have happened here. But my disappointment in Trump is that he hasn't shared that. Now, would that have struck panic in the country? Would it have changed the nature of the relationship if he explained it properly? I don't know. It's like if you let Stephen Miller explain it, it would be a disaster. I'm not a big Stephen Miller fan, right? I think I could explain it
America
in a
First
way.
Legal, that guy?
Whatever. Yeah, the guy, he's got the shaved head, but he's
Oh,
like
yeah.
31 years old, and he's, Trump's right hand guy, but he's too outspoken. I'm not a big Stephen Miller fan. So, my feeling is if you explain it properly, America would understand what happened, and you can't treat the whole country like the dumbest quarter. All right, so you can't treat the whole country like the stupidest group that we've got. It's like you can't use this least common denominator approach. I think it's a mistake because it then develops this type of distrust, right? I think
What do you
Trump
mean
was an
least common
effective president,
denominator approach?
meaning assuming that everybody's going to panic.
Ah,
To me, it's like that. That's like I shouldn't say the Walmart crowd because I shop at Walmart, but it's the Walmart crowd. It's like
The
assuming, okay,
masses.
they're going to lose their minds. And it's like, all right, maybe a quarter of the population
But isn't
is,
even the risk of that too great? Because if millions of people panic, the cops can't control it.
well, is the risk too great? You have to assess the risk. I mean, do we
I
know
mean,
that the
I'm just
risk is too?
playing devil's advocate, you know? I
I don't
agree.
know. I
They
think
should tell us.
it's a worthwhile conversation, right? And if people want to make the argument that I'm glad they don't tell us about aliens and
No,
UFOs,
I want to know. I mean, we
Okay, so
already
this
know.
okay.
They're just saying we're idiots for talking about it.
Well, what about the panic? So it's the same thing. And whether it's the Las Vegas shooting or whether it's a gain of function virus that's out of control, that's killing ducks and geese in Canada or whatever the hell's going on, every one of these scenarios is a scenario where they're deciding whether or not the public can handle the truth. And I think that the Langley crew has adopted this William Casey mantra where if it's blue, we got to tell everybody it's red. If it's up, we got to tell everybody it's down. If it's
Yeah.
left, it had to be right. And if they're wearing khakis and matching windbreakers, they must be Nazis. Huh? What?
Those guys got arrested or something, and I think they
The
figured out
Patriot
that,
Front?
yeah, they were
Yeah.
idiots. They let
Okay.
them go right away. So I guess people.
Oh, okay. It sounds a lot like an act. It sounds like high school
Exactly.
play. Yeah, it sounds like a high school play. I just love the coordinating outfits. You can't find a bowling team in Indiana where all the guys will wear the same
That
pants.
accurately,
And
right.
there's only four guys on the team.
Right.
Okay, so you can get
Right.
four guys to wear the same slacks.
Somebody forgot
And
the
you're telling
cargo
me
pants or has the cargo pants.
250
Yeah.
guys?
All
And
the
it looks
same
like they
outfit.
ordered them from the same catalog. I mean, it's like, guys, they're not even a different shade of khaki. They are the same pants. It's like,
It's
wow, you
true.
are some organized dudes, man. You are organized. And by the way, did anybody check the parking lot? This was in Nashville, right?
They're a little different.
Well,
There's two different
barely.
issues of pants,
I
and you
think
have
you're
one
right.
of
I
the
think,
two.
and the memo didn't go out. This was in Nashville. Did anybody check the Knoxville FBI parking lot that day? I'll bet you it was empty. I'll
But they
bet you it
keep
was empty.
arriving in U-Haul trucks, right? And I mean, who's renting the U-Haul? This is the easiest thing for law enforcement to figure out if they wanted to. That alone makes it obvious. And also, no Trump people are running around with these masks on. This is all the obvious behavior of criminals. And I mean, when COVID was in full swing and like most everybody was forced to wear a mask, I suppose you could get away with this. But this is just so obviously an idiotic FBI idea.
It would be funny if they were all wearing latex gloves. But yeah, I mean, they're stirring up trouble, and that's good. Good for them. All right, so we're going to talk
Clowns.
about sort of a higher level of criminal activity in this show. So why don't we jump to our deck, and I'll share with the YouTube audience a couple thoughts before we go to the patron only portion. We're going to look at some interesting things there, but I wanted to explore this notion of treason. And I've been thinking of treason quite a bit. We should probably, you're supposed to introduce me as the author of, the upcoming book. That's how you're supposed
Yeah,
to introduce me,
it
right?
was
So,
for your own good with the bat chicken.
yeah, yeah. So this is the new book that's coming out. Very excited. It was for your own good. And this is, it's a story of a government that tells the public it's this, but it's that. But it was for your own good. So shut up and pay your taxes, and we'll do it
But
again.
do you realize that you maybe have come up with like $1 billion idea? We have all this, obviously people have seen Batman, Superman, Iron Man. You have now invented bat chicken. It's a
Well,
whole
Lori did the artwork in the AI, so she gets
ah
credit for that. But I love this concept, though, of the chicken disguised as the bat.
yeah,
Again, to me, this sums up the entire pandemic in a meme or in a piece of art. So I
it's
love it.
wonderful.
To me,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was for your own good. And, this is basically, it's a story of a sociopathological government that believes it's smarter than the people that it's serving.
Right. But it's
And
actually
so it
not. The
decides.
individual people
But,
in it are all dumb. We can see that when they're on TV.
and guess what happens when you get a whole bunch of dumb people
Yeah, they don't
together?
get smarter, right?
Right. So, by the way, like if you just take them out of Congress and you put them in a separate setting, it looks a lot like a bingo hall. It's
Or a
just like this
failing
is
business.
not the best of society. So it seems like there's something going on here. And one of the other dynamics here is apparently I am way off base and all wrong. Because if I was off base and all wrong, I'd certainly be getting the attention of Fort Meade and the National Security Agency every frickin' day. So in other words, if I was completely off base, right? So there are people on Twitter who's like, Cullen's out of his mind. Cullen's a Fed. Cullen's completely wrong about everything.
But how do
If
you know
that
that
was
people
that,
just saying that doesn't trigger something? I mean, are they talking about Arby's sandwiches? Why does Arby's keep looking at you?
probably because I keep mentioning that Arby's is looking at me. So
That's what I mean. I don't know if this is
but that's the only
actually...
reason. I never mention. In other words, I don't mention Barry Ptolemy.
You're not going for roast beef.
I don't mention Sean Rowland. I don't mention Geert Wilders. These are famous people who are checking me out. So the idea is when they check. So there's Rob Dew from.
Maybe he's going to Arby's.
No, he's looking at my tweets. So
he's
the idea is
going to Arby's too, though.
He might be. And
probably
again,
Whataburger. He's in Texas.
So Bubba, we know Bubba. So Bubba's checking me out. Science Magazine is looking. Science Magazine is the publication that published the gene sequence for H1N1 back in 2005, right? Yeah. So they're on
Not
everybody's.
So smart. Oh, Bricks is looking at you.
Okay, so that's exciting. But we see this again and again and again, and I'm still challenging anyone to collect more of, I call these stamps every time. So this is like collecting, green stamps or whatever. My grandma used to do that. The idea is
Flintstones glasses.
Go back up one. Yeah. Those guys, Fort Meade. I don't think anybody else is getting recommended as much as I am to follow these folks, and I never mention them. I never type that. I never talk about them. Why would I? I don't mention. We did a couple shows on General Flynn. I don't really mention defense intelligence agencies in my tweets. Not my tweets.
I think it's listening, the phone.
But we did it on the show. But the point is, we did shows on General Flynn. You don't see DIA popping up in here, right? They're not popping up.
I've tweeted about DIA and they don't pop up. John, we have a request from the audience.
What's that? What do you guys want?
Azure Roof, which is maybe a roofing company, wants a T-shirt with the bat chicken. It's actually a very good design, that bat chicken.
I got to ask Lori if it's okay. I got to ask Lori if I can... in the shirts.
Rob Dew is Alex Jones' producer. I'm thinking he's ordering Arby's over there in Texas, screwing up John's whole Twitter deal.
No, because I'm crapping all over Alex Jones, because to me Alex Jones is become a limited hangout.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude, it's 7 years. Yeah. It's 7 years. Okay, yeah. Laura Loomer was 24 years old or something when this whole thing started. She was a little kid when this all started.
You're right. 24.
7 years, he hasn't engaged me in anything, even though I've got the names of the girls. And he's talking about what a great job Laura Loomer did. But Laura didn't get the names of the girls. I got the names of the girls. He doesn't want to know about the names of the girls. He doesn't want to talk about the names of the girls.
Why didn't they want to follow up with that? That was amazing. You got it from the police radio or something, right?
Right.
But they redacted the last names. We still don't know who those people are.
Well, they redacted the last names, but we have the first names. Most people don't even know that there's 3 women in the room in the first place, let alone that we have their first names. And the fact that the last name is redacted means the LVMPD knows their last names. They just redacted that for us.
Why would they do that? Why don't they pursue these
Why
women?
would Alex Jones be a limited
Not be
hangout and
yelling
not want
about that,
to
right?
and
So
not
people
want
are
to talk to
singing the
me?
praises of Rob Dew, and I agree. Meeting him personally, he's a nice guy. But it was Rob Dew who delivered the message to me. I was told he was the one who was in charge of deciding whether I get kicked off of banned video or not. And remember, InfoWars kicked Crowdsource the Truth off of banned.video when I had a phone call with General McInerney about the whole hammer and scorecard thing, and he just hung up
You
the
at
phone.
least
He
got
didn't want to
kicked
talk
out.
about Mary Fanning.
Dude, you at
Yeah,
least
you were
got
never
kicked
allowed
out.
in. Right.
0. No engagement in 7 years on the Vegas shooting.
But they stole your footage, didn't they? Somebody apologized to you on air.
Greg Reese, the other producer. So Greg Reese, I think he works for Rob Dew, but he did. He was another producer at InfoWars who stole my stuff. And I wrote them an email. And I said, guys, you can't just take my stuff
And then he
pretend
apologized.
that you did. And then he said, yeah, we got all this
they
great
see
stuff.
communications from you. You know they see
Oh,
them.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Flynn is all over InfoWars. Alex was tweeting, Flynn would be a great vice president. And I'm thinking...
David Martin.
Oh, yeah, he had
on.
David Martin on.
He's had McCullough. He's had everybody.
I don't know. I don't know why.
Limited hangout. Look, again, you taught us that
You're right.
of the specific techniques of the limited hangout is to avoid
Yeah.
and ignore pivotal evidence.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who built the mapping system. Here I am. I'm not wearing a mask anymore. Hong Kong didn't have 5 dead. Alex Jones doesn't think that's not a story, Alex. The guy who built the mapping system is showing you here's Shanghai, here's Hong Kong, here's Beijing. There weren't 10 people dead anywhere. And after 7 years on Vegas, he thinks Laura is the one who did all the work on the Vegas shooting? Laura didn't find out the girls' names.
Or
She got the
identify
receipt to show that they were. She got a receipt to show that
work. She did important work, but she hasn't followed through like you have. Nobody has.
Right.
But wait a second, John. People tuned in tonight because they want to understand who it is that you find guilty of treason.
Well, I think it's a broad spectrum, and that's why I didn't want to put anybody on the thumbnail. I just wanted to have the gallows ready because it's sort of this sort of begins with, for me, it begins with the Vegas shooting, but you have to look at, well, what's the definition of treason, right? So what is it? And so when we look at, well, what is treason, that then will define, well, who might be guilty of this. Right. So I don't know. What the hell is it? So let's go to the slide that says, what is treason? Let's look at this. This is from Cornell University. And why don't you read the definition? It's 18 U.S. Code 2381. Treason. You read this to the audience, if you will.
Yeah. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years. That's quite a broad range. And fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. You know what's interesting? This was created in 1948 when $10,000 was probably like, more than your house. And like now it's like death weighed against $10,000. This is like they can decide to do whatever they want.
And this goes to another topic you and I have talked about before that we need to do a show on, which is, does anybody revisit these laws?
Yeah.
This is from 1948 with the $10,000. We've talked about how the National Firearms Act had a $200 tax.
Right. Much better
to dissuade you from buying a silencer. Yeah. So back then, $200. I mean, you buy a Volkswagen for $200 in 1931. All right. So now that we know what that is, now let's go back to the definition for a second, because when you break down just that piece in the middle there, so we're not talking about So obviously, all the sheriffs and stuff, oh, allegiance to the United States. Nobody levied war, but adhering to the enemies and giving them aid and comfort, giving the enemy
Wait a
aid
minute.
and
It
comfort.
was war, though, because if the argument that you're trying to make is that they used psychological or fifth generation cyber warfare to engage in a coup d'etat and overthrow the presidency of the United States, it is a war.
No. I'm starting with Vegas. So for
Oh,
me,
well, they're
Vegas
shooting
kicked this.
people. How is that not war?
Well, hang on. So if in a scenario like the Vegas shooting, okay, if my thesis is correct, and it turns out the guys in the helicopter shooting people were Al Qaeda, let's call it Al Qaeda, okay? If that's the case, Al Qaeda is an enemy of the United States.
Right.
If this is covered up by, let's begin with defendant number one, Sheriff Lombardo.
Right.
Sheriff Lombardo goes to the microphone at 1:30 in the morning, tells everybody we got a lone gunman. We got this thing pretty wrapped up. He's dead currently. And we're going to clean this mess up and move on. But that's not what really happened. Is he providing comfort and aid to the enemy, allowing them to escape?
Well, no, because if he's ordered to do that by the FBI, then he's just following orders and they'll evade that law like that, I would think.
All right. So, but that's a variable. So was he directed? Now, so that's a key question, because the press conference, the first press conference where he lies, happens the night of the shooting at 1:30 in the
no
morning.
FBI there?
No, Rouse is already there, but I don't know if Rouse told Lombardo what to say yet. I think
if the
Rouse,
FBI shows up in the police thing, they take over. They control it.
yeah, but I don't think Rouse, Rouse is just like, let's give him enough rope and let him hang himself. Let's see what he says. Rouse might have already known at 1:30 a.m. He's already got the call from the State Department.
Yeah, if the
Lombardo
FBI is
doesn't
involved,
know.
they control it.
But that doesn't mean Rouse told Lombardo what to say. Rouse might have just been laying back and say, let's see if Lombardo,
It doesn't sound like the type of thing the lead officer in control of something would do, though.
I don't think he knew enough at the moment. I don't know that they had time to come up with some lone
so
gunman.
You're saying like the cops in the room just come up with this idea to spread bullets around? I mean, now we're getting a little too far into stuff that we have no way of knowing.
Rouse isn't there. Well,
Yeah.
Rouse isn't in the room. We don't see Rouse. Rouse isn't there.
Right,
He's not,
directing those cops what
He's
to
not
do.
in the room.
But somebody
they're in the room.
decided to break the window. Someone made the decision that we're not going to report what's going on here. Who was that?
Correct. I don't know. And is that providing aid and comfort to the enemy if in fact the enemy here is Al Qaeda shooting and killing American kids, people, adults? Would that be considered giving them aid and comfort if you are now forging evidence in the crime scene to make it look like this guy did it?
But what if they didn't
not
know
real killers?
the helicopters were
didn't?
there? I mean, that's the thing. The cops
Doesn't matter.
putting those. Yeah, why did they do that? They had to know. Somebody knew.
No, they didn't know about the helicopters. No, it's that if they didn't forge the crime scene, break the window, dump the brass on the floor and all that stuff and find a hammer, idiots.
Right.
If they didn't do that, that can't be the crime scene. And they're all standing around looking at each other like, dude, this guy couldn't have done this. You all realize that, right? The window's not broken. You can't shoot people outside without... The windows don't open at all. They don't open an inch. They don't even crack.
I saw morons on Twitter arguing with you about this.
Yeah.
And like, hey, did you know like this most basic fact? And I was like, who are these people?
Right. All right. So it begins with Lombardo, McMahill, the crew in Vegas. Were they, by covering this up and forging evidence, providing aid to the real perpetrators? And now we go another step up.
Oh, but wait.
Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray. All right. Well, it's Christopher Wray from the FBI providing aid by covering this up.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to answer that and many other questions because I actually want to weigh in and give you my opinion on that question. But people are going to need to join us in 5 minutes on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Huge thank you to the viewers who sponsor the show. We wouldn't be here without you guys. If you enjoy the show, join us. You're going to love the sponsor exclusive content coming up right now.